There are so many different types of cabins that crew members stay in on cruise ships. I'm going to show you the rooms from smallest to biggest, from these tiny little cabins to huge ones like the cruise directors stay in.
From Oasis of the Seas to Icon of the Seas, these are 5 cruise cabin types that can absolutely ruin your vacation. And tens of thousands of cruisers learn this the hard way every year. With over 37 million passengers expected to cruise in 2025, according to CLYA and ships from Norwegian Cruise Line to MSC.
On my last cruise, I booked the cheapest and smallest cabin on the entire ship. This was around 185 square feet, which is pretty big by cruise ship standards. There aren't any windows, but it's great for those of us on a budget.
Cruises now carrying up to 8,000 guests. Choosing the wrong cabin has never been more costly to your peace of mind. Let me share the most important cruise tips about exactly which cabins to avoid and why. Because your cabin isn't just a place to sleep. It's your sanctuary at sea, your refuge from the chaos. Get this wrong, and you'll spend your entire cruise wide-eyed and sleep-deprived.
Come with me to check out one of the best cruise cabins. Welcome on board the Star Legend. It is a ship by Windstar. As soon as you walk in, you are greeted by this gorgeous and very large living area, complete with a couch, 2 sitting chairs. You have a queen-size bed, a large vanity area, TV, dresser space, and more. But we need to check out the walk-in closet. I love any cruise cabin that comes with a walk-in closet.
Listening to everything from engine throb to midnight karaoke bleeding through your walls. After analyzing feedback from hundreds of cruisers and testing cabins on more than 200 ships departing from Port Miami and Port Everglades, cruise experts have identified hard rules about the worst possible.
This is what a balcony cabin looks like on one of the best cruise ships in the world. We're talking about the brand new MSC World America, a cruise ship that just launched and already made it onto the list of the 10 largest cruise ships on the planet. Our cabin was number 1129, meaning it was on deck 11 out of the ship's 22 decks. Right when you walk in, the first thing you see is the room itself, and it's huge. It's kind of divided into 2 spaces. One side has the bed and a big closet, with plenty of room for drawers, shelves, and a hanging section for clothes. The other side is the living area, and honestly, it's the part that surprised us the most.
Cabin locations. These aren't just minor inconveniences. These are deal breakers that will have you counting down the days until you can escape back to dry land. Let's start with the absolute worst offender. Deck 14 cabins located directly below the pool or Lido deck.
All right, let's start tiny. These are single shares. You get your own space, but you are sharing a bathroom with somebody else. It's a cabin a lot of crew members want to stay in because of the privacy of it. Yes, you share a bathroom, but your own space, it's gold on a cruise ship. Speaking of privacy, you will not get privacy in one of these rooms. This is a bunk room where 2 people stay in it. It's bigger, of course, but you're going to be in here with a stranger.
This might seem convenient. You're close to all the action, right? Wrong. You're positioned directly underneath what becomes a construction zone every single morning at dawn. Picture this. It's 6 in the morning. You're finally getting some deep sleep after a late night, and suddenly it sounds like a bowling alley has opened above your head. That's not an exaggeration. That's exactly how one cruiser described their experience on Oasis of the Seas. Every morning, crew members drag hundreds of pool loungers across the deck, arranging them for the day ahead. While some staff will lift and move chairs properly, many simply drag them across the Lido deck floor, creating a cacophony that penetrates straight through to the hall cabins below. But the morning chair symphony is just the beginning. Throughout the day, you'll hear constant running, scraping, chatting, and even jumping from pool activities. The music from the pool deck will vibrate through your ceiling, making it impossible to read quietly on your balcony or take an afternoon nap. And if you think it ends when the sun goes down, think again. Pool parties, theme nights, and special events can keep the noise going until 2 in the morning or later. The same principle applies to cabins below basketball courts, where the rhythmic bouncing of balls becomes a maddening drumbeat on your ceiling, or below jogging tracks where early morning runners create that relentless thud 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 that'll drive you absolutely bonkers. If you're booking a balcony cabin thinking you'll enjoy peaceful moments outdoors, being below the pool deck defeats the entire purpose. The second cabin type that'll destroy your cruise experience is anything near, above, or below major entertainment venues. This includes nightclubs, piano bars, theaters, and music halls. Getting to sleep early becomes an impossible challenge when you're positioned next to the heart of the ship's nightlife. There's what one expert calls the Bermuda Triangle of bad cabins on Carnival ships, the area around the aft elevator bank on cabin decks that sit directly above the main entertainment deck. If you end up in one of these cabins, particularly on the starboard side, you're dealing with a perfect storm of noise pollution. Not only do you hear the rowdy crowds emerging from elevators late into the night, but on many vessels, the sounds of piano bars and nightclubs drift up through stairwells directly below you. The theater situation can be equally brutal. One cruiser took what seemed like a lucky free upgrade, only to discover they were positioned directly under the stage of the main showroom. During the day, they couldn't nap due to band practice, dancers rehearsing, and bingo games. At night, the vibrations from shows continued well into the evening through multiple seatings. When Carnival Destiny debuted in 1996, the engineers made a spectacular oversight. They didn't realize certain staterooms would absorb massive amounts of noise from the dance club above. In true Carnival fashion, the company actually began marketing these rooms as night owl cabins for passengers who didn't mind sleeping less. That problem was eventually fixed, but it perfectly illustrates how entertainment venue noise can be severe enough to fundamentally change the purpose of a cabin. Don't forget about the gym factor either. Unless you enjoy the sound of treadmills pounding over your head at 5 in the morning, avoid any cabin directly below the fitness center. And if you're near a casino, you're not just dealing with noise, you're also dealing with smoke, since casinos are often the only interior spaces where smoking is permitted, creating a constant flow of people lighting up nearby. Our third cabin catastrophe involves forward cabins near the ship's anchor. This might sound like a minor technical detail, but cruisers who've experienced this describe it as feeling like a major earthquake every time the ship docks. One passenger on Freedom of the Seas had a cabin all the way forward near the anchor, and every docking felt like seismic activity that would jolt them awake in the early morning hours. But the anchor noise is just one piece of the forward cabin nightmare. These cabins also experience the most pronounced up and down motion of the entire ship, since vessels pivot around their center point. If you're prone to seasickness, forward cabins are your absolute worst enemy. Even with modern ship stabilizers working to reduce motion, the forward sections still experience the most intense movement in rough seas. While these cabins offer dramatic views of approaching destinations and can make you feel like you're literally cutting through the ocean, they also deliver the most intense motion compared to passengers in midship locations. You'll feel every wave, every pitch, every roll magnified. The anchor dropping process is particularly jarring for anyone in the vicinity. If your ship is scheduled for tender ports, where the anchor is dropped offshore rather than docking at a pier, you're in for early morning wake-up calls that sound like construction equipment starting up outside your window. The tender boats shuttling passengers to shore create additional noise as crew members talk loudly while maneuvering equipment and preparing for port operations. The same motion problems affect cabins at the very back of the ship, or stern. While aft cabins often feature larger balconies and offer views of the ship's wake, they can suffer from engine vibration on older ships and even exhaust smells depending on wind direction. One cruiser described being positioned right over the propellers. Our room shook day and night. The closet rattled continually, and there was a squeak somewhere in the ceiling that was very annoying when trying to get to sleep. The fourth major cabin trap is what's called guarantee or GTY bookings. These sound incredibly tempting. You book a cabin category like interior, ocean view, balcony, or suite, and let the cruise line assign your specific room. The marketing suggests you might get lucky with an upgrade, but here's the reality. You're almost always given what's left over after everyone else has chosen. It's like playing slots at a casino. Occasionally you'll hit the jackpot and get a fantastic cabin, but most of the time you'll end up with the absolute dregs. Cruise lines use guarantee bookings to fill their least desirable cabins. Those with obstructed views, smaller balconies, terrible locations, or combinations of multiple problems. What's particularly frustrating is that choosing your own cabin often doesn't cost more than a guaranteed booking. On several recent Celebrity, Holland America, Princess Cruises, and Norwegian Cruise Line sailings, travel experts found they paid exactly the same price to select a specific cabin as they would have for a guaranteed fare. Even if there's a small premium for cabin selection, it's absolutely worth it for peace of mind. Here's another guarantee booking trap. Most cruise lines automatically enroll you for auto upgrades, unless you specifically opt out. This means they can move you from your chosen cabin to a supposedly better one, often without consulting you first. The problem is you can't revert to your original choice if you hate the new location. Cruisers have found themselves relocated to forward cabins on rough transatlantic voyages, regretting their upgrade for the entire sailing. If you're particular about your cabin location for any reason, and after hearing about these other cabin disasters, you should be, never book a guarantee cabin. You're essentially handing control of your cruise experience to someone else's leftover inventory. Our final category covers two related problems: connecting door cabins and interior-facing view cabins. These might seem like minor issues, but they can completely destroy your cruise tranquility. Connecting door cabins are fantastic if you're traveling with family or friends and want easy movement between rooms. However, they're a nightmare if you don't know who your neighbors are. Sound carries through connecting doors far more than through solid walls. You'll hear conversations, television shows, and every activity happening in the adjacent cabin. Many cruise lines offer these rooms to solo travelers or couples, but unless you specifically requested adjoining access, avoid them entirely. The soundproofing between connecting rooms is minimal, and you'll essentially be sharing your private space with strangers. The interior-facing view problem is specific to certain ship designs, particularly Royal Caribbean's Royal Promenade, cabins on Freedom Voyager and Oasis-class ships. These cabins face inward toward the ship's main indoor walkway, rather than out to the ocean. While they feature large bay windows that let you observe promenade activity, those same windows create two major problems. First, they're not soundproof. During evening hours, noise from bars, parties, and events below drifts directly into your cabin. The first night is typically the worst due to welcome parties and kickoff celebrations. One cruiser on Navigator of the Seas called their Royal Promenade cabin by far the worst experience they'd had. The noise from speakers was unbearable, preventing both daytime naps and nighttime sleep. When they complained, customer service dismissed them by saying, "Music plays 24/7. The experience was so terrible they actually disembarked at the first port and flew home. Second, these windows work both ways. The same bay windows that let you watch promenade activity let everyone on the promenade see directly into your cabin. Royal Caribbean provides curtains for privacy, but for many people, the voyeuristic aspect feels uncomfortable. You'll need to keep blinds drawn constantly if you want any privacy. The average interior cabin is only 167 square feet, and some can be as small as 120 square feet. When you combine that cramped space with nosebleed from public areas, connecting doors, or interior views, you've created a recipe for cruise cabin claustrophobia. Here's how to protect yourself from these cabin disasters. Before booking any cruise, pull up the ship's deck plans on the cruise line's website or Cruise Critic. Study what's directly above and below any cabin you're considering. Ideally, you want other guest cabins both above and below yours on Deck 8 through Deck 11. That provides a buffer against noise from public spaces. The golden rule of cabin selection is choosing accommodations sandwiched between two passenger decks. Avoid anything with restaurants, theaters, gyms, pools, or nightclubs on adjacent levels. For seasickness concerns, choose a cabin on the lowest passenger deck in a midship location. The ship's fulcrum sits roughly midship between decks 6 through 8 on most vessels. Book there, and modern stabilizers will ensure you experience minimal movement even in rough seas. When Icon of the Seas launched in January 2024, it became the largest cruise ship in the world at nearly 251,000 gross tons, carrying up to 7,600 passengers. On ships this massive, cabin location becomes even more critical because the distance between good and terrible locations can span multiple city blocks worth of space. Remember, your cabin choice can make or break your entire cruise experience. Spending a few extra minutes studying deck plans and avoiding these 5 cabin disasters will save you from 7 days of regret. The cruise industry is expecting record numbers in 2025, so competition for the best cabins will be fierce. Don't let a poor cabin choice turn your dream vacation into a floating nightmare. Your future well-rested self will thank you for doing the homework up front.